Yeah, so like I said, I'm here with Paul Jackson, the owner and founder of Adelphi Club. Was it always called Adelphi?
It was always called the New Adelphi Club, and I was never bothered to change it. I don't even know what the Adelphi is. If people asked, I tell them it's where the Greek gods went for their orgies. So if you've been a Greek god, for example, which you're not, that's where you'd have gone for your orgies.
Wow.
And people generally sort of accept that. But I've no idea what the Adelphi is.
There's a few Adelphis like around in the UK, aren't they? They're not some.
Yeah, there's an Adelphi in Liverpool, there's an Adelphi in Leeds, there are a few more around as well. Yeah.
So what was it actually when you took it over then?
It was a working men's club.
Okay.
It had pool teams and darts teams and dominoes teams and a gay night, or it was a gay Sunday lunchtime, which was always absolutely packed out, very colourful night, and it represented a third of our turnover, just opening up for sort of 3 hours on a Sunday lunchtime. It was a good night. We switched it to a night, and it went through from 1984 into 1985, and with the onset of the AIDS epidemic, it disappeared at the end of 1985. But we've always had connections with the LGBT community, and are proud to do so.
Cool. So yeah, so when you took it over, did you obviously what changes did you make to the club? From working man's club to like how you had your vision. I mean, what was the vision of when you first started?
It was always the intention for it to be a live music venue. So I started putting bands on the first week, really. I think Guy Gibson and Vagrant were the first band. The second band were Cold Dance, who I got a lot of help from the singer Diane Dubois, who is an art person, and drummer was Kev Hunter, who went on to tour manage the Pixies, who were a massive band who you probably won't be aware of. But and then the House Martins were the third band to play the Adelphi, and all the time I was getting to know people, and from one gig a week, within about a month it was 2 or 3 gigs a week, and within 6 months it was pretty much a 7-night-a-week venue. So for the dominoes players and the darts players, the gig atmosphere wasn't really very suitable, so they moved on, and I did keep a pool team on because I enjoyed playing pool, and still, I played pool throughout my time at the Adelphi, and I loved playing pool. One of my ambitions when I for my retirement was to actually join a pool team, but shit happens.
Yeah, it's true. So
I've never played pool again. But,
yeah. So the Adelphi. So what was your experience, or what was you doing at the time before you set up Adelphi? Because I like to know, like, the Paul Jackson, was he? I don't know. What he created? I don't.
I had a knowledge of music. I had a history of going to tens of thousands of gigs probably before I started at the Adelphi. I had an enormous music collection. I was a music fanatic, really, and my interest in music stretched across all genres, and in programming and curating the Adelphi, even if it was a type of music that I wasn't familiar with, I found I could communicate with people, and if they had a certain reverence and critical approach to their type of music, then I recognised it as valid music that ought to be a part of the Adelphi programming. Obviously, there are types of music that happen at the Adelphi that some I like more than others, but if the people who are into the music have a sort of respect for that music, then that's okay. If the people who are into the music just get pissed and cause trouble and threaten staff and stuff like that, then we don't want them. Yeah. But we will go the extra yard to try and bring them on side.
Adelphi has always been open to...
Sorry?
Adelphi has always been open to everything.
It has, yeah.
All different cultures.
Yeah. No, it has.
And all different types of music.
Well, that was was deliberate as well.
Tested stuff out as well.
Yeah. Well, that was deliberate. I mean, we started doing grime in about 2006 or 2007 or something like that. My history as a regular attender of gigs. I spent a lot of time in the students' unions, which is where all the decent gigs happened. We went to York and Leeds and Liverpool, Manchester, as well as Hull University, all the time, and I was familiar with, despite having been expelled from school for non-attendance, I spent all my time in an academic university environment, because I was mixing with students. All my girlfriends were students. And
expelled from school? So didn't do any exams then? Or?
I didn't do any exams at all, no. Well, I got O level in maths and English, I think.
Okay.
Didn't turn up for half the rest. I was following my own agenda from a very early age, really. I was going in pubs from the age of about 13 because I was quite a big lad.
Cool.
And I enjoyed, I developed an addiction, which I have to this day, of, sampling the soap opera of every bar. I love the soap opera that sounds every bar. So I'm a soap opera addict who's never actually watched a soap opera on telly. Apart from one, there was a period when I watched Neighbours on telly. My dog always used to sing along to the Neighbours theme tune by Jackie Trent and Tony Hatch, which is absolutely awful, but the fact that my dog always used to sing along to it is testimony to the fact that I watched it for a bit. But I love the soap opera around any bar. I love just walking in a bar and people watching, trying to figure out the characters. And the Adelphi, when I started, it was very deliberate. Hull in 1984 was a town of limited horizons. It was quite unusual to see a coloured face or hear an accent you didn't understand. It's obviously changed massively then, but because of the atmosphere I'd experienced in a student union environment with people from all around the world and different cultures, I wanted to translate that into the Adelphi and integrate young local sixth formers, young people into an inclusive cosmopolitan environment, and we did that pretty successfully. I've employed people in my time from pretty much all around the world, and in many ways it's an indulgence on my part. I just find ethnicity and life experience interesting. I've got a fascination with it, a natural fascination with it, and I love meeting people. I'm still happy now, despite my disability, because I can still get out and get my people fix. And I still meet new people, and I still find them fascinating. And obviously I've accumulated a few friends over the years along the way as well, and that's great. I haven't got any kids, but there's lots of kids came to me at that time when they'd probably left home for the first time and been thrown out into the wider world and asked to sink or swim, and I was there by their side, and I've been friend and counsel to a lot of people from around the world, and the legacy of the Adelphi. I'm quite proud of that.
Yeah. And like, I mean, we know people are always proud of the fact that so many people have passed through Adelphi. So
yeah,
which bands and people would you say, you know, like you knew from quite an early stage, and then you know they've gone on to do big things, and you've kind of like seen on them posters I've seen so many people that's passed through Adelphi. I mean,
yeah,
and you know, how would you say majority of the people are? I know some people can be horrible, some people can be nice, but I mean, what sticks to your head, in your mind of
musically, yeah.
Or even personality of the person that one side musically, and the other side like personality, someone that you've met and you thought, well, you know, a famous person you met and you thought, well, you know, they're
well,
or a few even.
Yeah, you know, there are big names which you're fishing for, and it's always been more important to me for the Adelphi to be seen as an arts venue, supporting music as an art form, which I think we've done very effectively. But you know, I do have a commercial record company head on me. And the big names like your Pulp, your Radiohead, your Oasis, your House Martins, your Stone Roses, your Green Day, and a million more that I've probably forgot. But I've enjoyed working with musicians, and the exceptionally talented ones will always be a pleasure to work with. I've never known an extremely talented musician to be difficult to work with, you know, and I've had beers with them after the show and talked to them and have found them fascinating. And that includes talented people from around the world, you know. There was a time when we had the Adelphi Hotel upstairs, and they used to stay upstairs, and my dog would alternate between the band in the room at the back upstairs and my room at the front, and check that everybody was all right.
Yeah, I remember you always lived upstairs at Adelphi for years.
I did, yeah, and I moved out in 2017 when my health started to sort of deteriorate. I'm a 54-year type 1 diabetic, and that has its, you know, there are attritional effects which I'm suffering from.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we know what's happened, you know what I mean, as regarding your loss of your limbs.
Yeah.
Well, when did that happen? How long ago was that?
The amputation...
You know, it seems so quick, innit, the time where time goes.
Yeah, the amputation was January 2023. My left foot went wrong at the end of September 2022. It was a Charcot foot, which happened because of an accumulation of diabetic conditions. My foot collapsed, and the bone structure of my foot collapsed, and the foot twisted through 45 degrees, and there was a massive sort of 7 centimetre in diameter ulcer on the bottom of my foot, which didn't heal up. So we decided on the amputation, with the assurance that I'd be walking in 6 months, no problem at all. And various things have happened to prevent that. So I'd, yeah, you know, all my retirement plans went up in smoke, but I'm happy. I'm still enjoying life and getting out when I can. It's quite expensive. A couple of taxis every time I go out, which I can't really afford, but I'm fine.
Cool, man.
Yeah. I'm fine. I've still got my music. I've got my Fire Stick, so I can watch lots of sport, which stops me going insane. I like cricket and football.
Yeah.
Watched the Challenge Cup final yesterday.
Not forget, I know, I suppose amazing, wasn't it?
It was.
Amazing, no, do you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean the track, they had so much.
I mean, it was an ugly match.
Yeah.
It was an ugly match, and two very messy tries. I enjoyed the semis and the quarters better than the final, I think. It could have gone either way, needless to say.
Of course it is.
Warrington will feel a bit unlucky, but...
Yeah.
But it's great. I was at Wembley when they previously won the Challenge Cup, so, which I remember very clearly.
Wow.
Where that was the last one out, turn out the lights final. As you drove out on the A63, somebody had written on one of the bridges, last one out, turn out the lights, because everybody was leaving Hull to go down to Wembley. It was very noticeable. I think the Wembley in 1979-80 season, or whenever it was, I think that was a sellout, and it clearly wasn't a sellout yesterday, which is probably an indicator of hard times.
What do you mean in terms of like the stadium sellout, you mean? Yeah.
I
suppose back then...
and it was half empty.
I suppose back then, there was, there'll be people probably more into it and more of the other side of the city who probably supported it as well.
I think people are still into it.
There was a lot of fans though when you saw like on the...
There's a lot of people into it, but I mean, perhaps it's the peripheral interest in rugby league in a place like London that's sort of diminished. But I think Hull and Rovers' attendances are pretty much as good as they've ever been. The support for the sport in the city is pretty robust, I would say.
We're going to see a lot of people today in the city centre.
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
Come into in the city hall, aren't they? Going
to
display the Challenge Cup and stuff. So
yeah, that's right. No, it's it's a feel good thing for the city, and the city needs it.
Of course it does. Of course.
So that's great,
Yeah. So as well as so what's the future for Adelphi? Because what's your hand in the Adelphi? You're still owning it. You're still.
I'm still making quite a lot of noise and generally being ignored, but I still own it. I'm still a director.
Cool.
And I try and keep an eye on what's going on and offer my advice, which, as I say, is invariably ignored. But I still know quite a bit about the Adelphi and what's needed.
Cool.
And we'll see where it goes. As you know, we became a CIC, and I would like the CIC to sort of buy the place and take it over, or I would like somebody to take it over. And because as the owner of the Adelphi, it affects my future care, I've got 7,000 quid in the bank, which is more than I've ever had before. A lot more than I've ever had before. But of course I own this sort of place. And if I didn't, 7,000 quid, if for example I had to go into a care home, probably last 5 or 6 months, then I'm fucked.
But then the government takes over, don't they?
Sorry?
The government takes over.
Yeah. I'd have to go into a random place. And I can't really see myself living in a care home.
No.
Because I haven't got dementia yet or anything like that. I can't really contemplate being in a care home.
You're managing at the moment, aren't you?
I'm fine at the moment.
I mean, you get a car in, don't you?
I get a car in, yeah. It's 2 taxis every time I go out.
But you get a carer into do you have a carer that helps you?
A carer, right? Okay. I'm very lucky to have a very good carer who's a recently retired doctor. Yeah.
Cool.
And we get the district nurses round as well, who are pretty good. You can't always depend on them to be there when you need them, but they're very busy, like everybody in the NHS.
But you're taken care of, aren't you? You're okay.
I am taken care of. Yeah. I mean, there have been some issues with my care, but obviously it's a fairly complex, multifaceted sort of case, and I've had a couple of potential claims, but I wouldn't go near a compensation lawyer. I don't like compensation lawyers. I've been on the receiving end of the work of compensation lawyers, and I wouldn't want to put money in the pockets of a compensation lawyer just because somebody made an honest mistake.
So, just to step from that, like recently, obviously we lost the Jake Bizzle. It was a bit of a shock to everybody.
Which is a shock, because Jake's always been there, and he's always been beautiful and happy and bursting with conversation, and he was one of the genuine regional experts on reggae music. I suppose you might dispute that, but
no.
You wouldn't at all, would you?
No dispute.
He was a fanatic for reggae music, and I mean, I've never collected reggae music, but I've loved the Adelphi relationship with reggae, and that includes people like Jay and yourself and Nathan Sim carrying the flag these days, obviously easy skanking over the years. And Matt Oliphant, my assistant for 8 or 9 years, was also a reggae fanatic. It was great for me when he started bringing some live stuff to the Adelphi, which he's still doing at Future Yards in Birkenhead. But yeah, we've had a long-standing relationship with reggae music, and Jake was right at the centre of that. And it was just so sudden for everybody. I mean, he obviously knew that he was going in for an operation that carried its risks, and he didn't come out the other side. And I think we've all been hit quite profoundly by the death of Jake. One of the good men.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
One of the good men. You won't hear many words against Jake.
No. Yeah, it's affected a lot of people, the community.
Yeah.
It's it's one of them ones it's just shockwaves through everybody.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was genuine shock. I mean, word got around like wildfire on Wednesday. I assume he died on Wednesday.
But yeah, we just kind of like anything. We just live on.
I just hope his kids are all right.
Yeah, man. Just live
stuff
on,
like that.
live on good spirits in their name, you know.
I hope everybody's been looked after.
And yeah, so that was.
We haven't heard the funeral day yet, have we?
No. Yeah, so that's another one where we've seen everybody. But yeah, so
there'll be a big turnout for that.
Of course it will, man. So yeah, so how long has Adelphi been going now?
Well, it opened on the 1st of October 1984.
Wow. So
on October the 1st last year, we'd done 40 years, so we're now in our 41st.
Amazing.
The Adelphi will be 41 on the 1st of October 2025.
Amazing. That's great. He has gone
so
through,
it keeps on rolling, yeah.
It's gone through like a few different patches. Do you know what I mean? Like rough patches, hasn't it? You know, I remember when he
Um,
was even to close. And
it's
you got a bit of a
needed.
rescue.
It's needed a lot of third-party help. I mean, for decades, I literally worked 7 days a week, 20 hours a day with no holidays. But my family also put in probably over 100,000 quid over the years in bits and bobs. And since 1995, Chris Dimmock has been an integral part of what we do. He does he's done the equivalent of a full-time job and more, and never asked for a penny in return. So he's a very important part of it. I had to sell my house as well as work pretty hard. So it's been a team effort, really, of which I've just been a part of it. And I did work very hard. I did create the template for something that's resonated profoundly in the lives of many tens of thousands of people around the world. And I think I've done my bit.
You definitely have done your bit, man.
And I just find it fascinating seeing how it evolves. Now I'm not physically a part of its running. Obviously, having run it sort of single-handedly for such a long time, I don't always see eye to eye with sort of new decisions. But generally speaking, I'm fairly happy with how it's going. Well, one of my problems is I'm never satisfied with stuff. I always want things to be better. I'll never say, right, that's good enough, let's keep it there. I always want things to be better. I love my city and I love my country, but I always want them to be better, so I'll never be happy. And it's the same with the Adelphi. Just a characteristic. And when I was there by myself, it was never as good as I wanted it to be, but it was still pretty good.
Adelphi's amazing.
A lot of the things that we did worked very well.
Adelphi's been amazing. I was just looking at that photograph of that thing that we had at the side of the building. That was great. Was it like a rocket or something attached to the side of the building?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yeah.
It was actually a bomb.
Yeah, it was mad, though, wasn't
it? And it did actually cause some upset. There was a guy who worked across the road who was very offended by it. He'd done some time in Afghanistan, and he was quite upset by it, which is something we didn't foresee. We don't like upsetting people.
That was cool, though. I was looking at the photograph yesterday. Was it just part of an exhibition and you had to remove it?
Yeah. Well, it did start becoming a little bit unsafe after about 9 months or so.
Okay.
So when it came down, it had to come down.
Okay, cool.
We didn't want it falling on anybody.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. But yeah, I'm going to conclude our interview. We've covered everything just about. And so is that thing. So yeah, what would you like? What would you like? I know you're about, So Paul Jackson, remember you was Paul Jackson, the guy that turned the music scene around. That helped to.
I don't think I'll ever change that. I think we've played a role in the music scene and will continue to play a role in the music scene. I think it's important that we always try and complement rather than compete with the other components of the music scene in the city. Fill in the gaps if needs be, because music's always big enough to find gaps and new audiences and different types of music. We've done them all over the years at the Adelphi. But it's been a pleasure and a privilege to be part of the local music community and to have worked with musicians from all around the world. And my wealth is in the people I've known during the time at the Adelphi as a people adept. It's just been such a pleasure and a privilege to have known so many people from so many different backgrounds and cultures, and at the centre of that are the local people.
Been amazing, because
and Hull's a better place than it was, and I think the Adelphi's played a part in that as well.
Yeah, man. And all silhouettes.
It's about you know, when people talk about the Adelphi, they talk about music, but there was also a social agenda which worked, and I think that's what probably sets it apart from other music venues. And I'd say it was just me indulging myself, being selfish, if you like. You know, I just wanted to surround myself with interesting people as a people addict, alongside the music, which was the other essential prerequisite. It was always going to be a music venue. There you go.
May it continue. Yeah, man.
Long may it continue, yeah. I hope so.
Thank you, Paul.
And it continues longer than me.
Cheers, man. Cheers.
All right, Dave.